up? I've been on a paper chase for months. I've been on a marathon for months. All in all, I can't just get enough.
What's happening, everybody? What's going on? Welcome back to my nonsense. I got those numbers for you, like I was saying, on these loads here. There's some money to be made out here, you know. I tell you, it is a little different, I guess, because I'm signed on with a company, so I'm doing customer freight. I'm sure it would be a bigger struggle if you were running primarily off the spot market, right? And you can see in the numbers that it would be kind of a struggle, although there's still some good spot market loads out there. So if this is the first time you ever tuned into my channel, I'm basically just a truck driver that talks a bunch of bullshit and does a bunch of bullshit. And I recently switched from being a company driver over to being an independent. I'm not a full-on owner-operator. I lease this truck. The trailers are rented. It just changes the pay structure, basically, which works good. And you'll see on later on in here, you know, some of these loads, how much more money I make doing it this way versus by getting paid for the load by the mile, right? All right, so let's jump into this bullshit here, right? I basically got 3 weeks here. So I started out with a Middleville, Michigan load going down to Katy, Texas, right? It was 5 stops. You got $25 per stop after the first stop, so that basically adds $100 to the load. It's 1,242 miles. It paid $3,450. That comes out to $2.77 a mile. And then once we're down there in Katy, we needed to get out of there, right? So we run over to Houston and grab the load. Very small amount of deadhead miles. They're very close together. And that was going up to Fremont, Indiana. 1,189 miles, paid $2,000. That comes out to $1.68 a mile. I understand that's not that great a pay for $1.68 a mile, but we needed to get the truck back up to where the better paying loads were at, right? So out of Fremont, Indiana, we're gonna work our way back to Michigan by way of Payne, Ohio. I think that was a very extremely short deadhead as well, and that went from Payne, Ohio up to Holland, Michigan. 203 miles, paid $600. That comes out to $2.95 a mile. So from Holland, Michigan, right, then we went out to Albertus, Pennsylvania. That was 668 miles. Load paid $2,300. That comes up to $3.44 a mile. From Albertus, Pennsylvania, that was a reload coming back to Grand Rapids, Michigan. That ended up being a little shorter. That was 655 miles. Paid $1,400. $2.13 a mile. Now that puts us back in Grand Rapids where we're getting the outbound customer freight. So the next load was of Middleville, Michigan to Hastings, Minnesota. I believe that was 4 stops. I don't have that written on here, but same deal. $25 a stop after the first stop. 696 miles, paid $2,125. Comes out to $3.05 a mile. From Minnesota, we want to get back to Michigan, but it ain't quite that easy unless you want to take some lower paying stuff, as we know. So we did a Eagan, Minnesota, which I do believe that was like 60 miles deadhead or something like that. I can't quite remember. Not a horrible deadhead, but a little bit longer than the previous deadheads. Over to Red Oak, Iowa. 353 miles, paid $1,000, $2.83 a mile. The Red Oak, Iowa got us a little back a little bit closer and back in the lane, so we took one Red Oak, Iowa over to Holland, Ohio. 655 miles, $1,400, $2.13 a mile. Once we got over to Holland, Ohio, that gave us some freight coming back into Michigan. So we took a Tiffin, Ohio to Montague, Michigan. 295 miles, $600, $2.03 a mile. Now we're back into the customer freight. Zeeland, Michigan, down to Orlando, Florida. 1 stop. 1,205 miles, $3,500, $2.90 a mile. Now getting out of Florida can be kind of a tricky deal here, right? And you guys might laugh at this one a little bit, but we had to do what we had to do to get out of Florida with a dry van. So we took a load Orlando, Florida up to Sumter, South Carolina, because we knew there was a load up there that paid a little better. 421 miles, paid $500, and yes, that was only $1.18 a mile, right? Now, we don't lose money on it. You still actually make money on that, believe it or not. Not very much, but you still make money on that after all your expenses are paid. The way we're running it, you do. Not much. I think I only made like $150 that day to run that load. But it don't matter, because some of these other days I make a lot of money, as you'll see. So once we got into Sumter, South Carolina, we ended up finding a 2-pick, 2-drop, coming out of Ridgeville, South Carolina, and then another pickup in North Charleston, South Carolina, which are about a half hour away from each other. They were both quick loads. 865 miles, paid $1,800, $2.08 a mile. And that one went up to one stop Livonia, Michigan, and another stop Redford, Michigan. So then we grabbed a Detroit, Michigan, back to South Haven, Michigan. And this is another example of the shorter ones paying, you know. Detroit, Michigan to South Haven, Michigan was 180 miles. I paid $600. So that's $3.33 a mile. And then we took a Grand Rapids, Michigan back out to Albertus. 668 miles, $2,300. That's $3.44 a mile. And that one is a good example of, like, when you look back to this Orlando to Sumter for $1.18, and I only made, you know, let's say $150 that day to run that load. Well, on this Albertus one right here, I made like $700 that day. Seriously, because you can run that all in one day. So I ran it in like 10.5 hours, and I made $700 fucking dollars on it. So you go take that money, right, and bounce it into where you only got 150 up here on this Orlando, Florida one, and you're doing all right. And then coming out of Albertus, you know, this is all customer range shit. The beauty of being signed on, right, or working for a company. That was a drop and hook, same facility. And that was Albertus, PA, down to Dallas, Texas, and then a second delivery in Carrollton, Texas. 1,470 miles, paid $3,450. That's $2.34 a mile. So how does that break down into the big scheme of things, like what I'm actually making? All right, so week one, that's $6,300 revenue to the truck. That gives me $1,890 to my checking account. After everything's done, goes straight into my checking account, right? Week two, $6,575 to the truck. That gives me $1,972 straight into my checking account. Week three. Now, mind you, week one and week two, I took the weekend off there. I reset. So that's a lot different than week three, because week three I didn't, and I've been running on recaps, and we had a few different loads, and we just kind of, you know, made some shit happen running on recaps and everything, which I'm still doing right now as I make this video. So this week will be a good week as well. That's $9,300 revenue to the truck. That's pretty good. That's $2,790 into my checking account. So that's 9,308 miles, right, total. $6,652 into my checking account. That averages out to 71 cents per mile, and a weekly average of $2,200 are what my checks are, if you average them out. So there we go. We can see the numbers on it now, right? So it does work, right? With all the naysayers that said, you know, back when I was getting screwed at that company job for $300 a day, 14 hours a day, 6 days a week, come up like $21 an hour, that I should have just stayed there and don't go out here and do this because I'm gonna lose my ass and I'm never gonna make it. I took the dive and it works, you know? There's a lot to be said with it. There's all different ways that it can be done. I mean, but in reality, you know, if you're a truck driver and you're out here driving a truck, you probably don't have access to a $90,000 or $100,000 a year job in another area, or you wouldn't be out here. I don't have access to one. This gives us the opportunity to make that kind of money. And you don't necessarily have to do it this way. Like when I worked at Sunset, I made 70 cents a mile. It was like 3,000 miles a week. So that was like $90-some thousand a year job right there as a company driver. I didn't like the company bullshit that went on there, so I didn't like that place, and obviously they went bankrupt, right? But MDT, well over 100,000, that was ag exempt. You know, 700, 800, 900 miles a day is way different than what I'm doing here with this 13 hours off, 15 hours off a night. I'm sitting here 24 hours getting paid $400 to wait on this load. Because I'm not a company driver, I don't get the little bullshit $150 layover pay or nothing. I get paid for the load, and the load balances out. So basically, the 2 days I ran, I got paid $400 per day, and I got to sit here till the morning to sit on the load. And the way the load paid, I get $400 to sit here for 26 hours or whatever. And I needed a day off anyway. But then people could say, well, yeah, but you don't get any time off, you don't get any time home, you know, you're always out on the road. That's trucking, man. You know, if you don't want to do that, you need to get into a different field. And as far as me being out here running and doing that, with that averaging out to like 115,000 a year on that, the way I'm running right now, that's running. I get it, and I probably won't do that forever. But even if you look at my other checks where I do take the weekends off, that still comes out to like $93,000 a year with the weekends off. That's not bad. You pulling 90 grand a year, rolling a truck, and you still got your weekends off. That's a good job. So there's the numbers. If you wanted to know what the real rates are, and I'm gonna put out a video like this like every few weeks or something like that, so you can see, because these are right off my rate cons, and I'm not gonna lie about them because my friends watch these videos, and I got people that work at this company that are getting paid on the same scale I am. They're doing the same shit I'm doing. That watch these videos, and they'd be able to call bullshit on it because they're friends with the owner of this truck and all that stuff. So I'm not gonna sit here and, you know, make the numbers all bigger, because everybody would know I was full of shit, right? Oh yeah, and as always, thanks for watching. Hit the fucking subscribe and button and shit on there right here. Hit that one and that one over there. I need more subscribers, damn it.
When I tell you, know you